Hello, welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast, and I'm excited to be here today. Yay! Oh, and of course, there's always a story behind what it took to get me set up today, but I will spare you that because it seems like until I get this consistent, there will always be a story. But I'm here and I'm excited to be here with you. Happy summer. I may be only podcasting once a week during the summer till I get more caught up clutter-wise. I'm just deep diving into that and I'm having fun with it. But I'm finding that, and it's actually inspiring my episode today, but obsessive-compulsive behaviors. But there's a lot of that when it comes to ADHD, whether it's hyperfocusing, perfectionism, you actually have OCD as well, or OCPD. They overlap in many ways, but they're also different. Although the perfectionism can be what is related to ADHD and OCPD. It's not its own disorder, but it's just a behavior, I guess. And then there's obsessive thoughts, there's obsessive tendencies, there are compulsive behaviors that happen. Anyway, it's very multi-layered. And if you see yourself in any of that, if you've always thought, well, I'm a perfectionist, or yeah, I need things to be a certain way, or ideally I'm a perfectionist, but I can't keep up in a way that makes it look like on the outside. Have you ever felt like that? Like nobody else can tell I'm perfectionist because if they looked at my car and saw how messy it is, or my house or whatever, maybe they wouldn't see it, or my drawer or my closet. So it might not always be obvious to other people, but the way you feel inside, the way you project your needs onto other people, or how it results in your behavior can determine if it's a disorder or if it's just a tendency. But the more I read about OCPD, and I first looked into it because my psychiatrist, I asked him if OCD was closely related to ADHD, and he said OCPD is more commonly related to OC or to ADHD. And I thought, OCPD, what on earth is that? So of course I had to go and look, and it's Obsessive-Compulsive Personality Disorder. It is a personality disorder. ADHD is not a personality disorder, and OCD is not a personality disorder. It's a disorder. And I really do need to get my blog articles back up on my website. But I've been moving my website, and I'm getting closer. It's getting better. But I really like when you can see a clear picture of what information is. I like to talk about information. I like to give information. I like to give examples. And I think that's a great way to learn. But to keep track of it, if I hear it, I can't put it into a little grid, or I can't see it real clearly. I have to look again and again. I need to have a reference point. And so that's going to be my goal this week. One of my goals is to give some of this information on my blog, because I think it's good to look and see if you think you have OCD, or if you think you have OCPD, or if you think I'm a perfectionist and why is that? You can look and kind of see how that all fits in with ADHD and where you might fit in with that. So I'm more going to talk about OCPD. And if you look back, I don't know which episode on my podcast, but a long time ago, probably back in the 20s, seems early on in my podcast. Now I'm, I think, at 93 or 94. I never remember numbers, in case you're wondering. I remember what people wore on Easter when I was 5, but I don't remember numbers. But I talked about OCD and OCPD and the differences. And there are a lot of differences and there are some similarities. But I'm going to talk more about OCPD because that is more driven by a need for things to be perfect, for perfectionism. And there are actually 4 types of OCPD according to a few doctors. These doctors' names are, let's see if I can find it. Of course, let's see. Yeah, where did I go with this? I think it's Dr. Mullen. And here we go. Mullen and Mulder. So they're pretty close. Dr. Paul Mulder and Dr. Ken Mullen, Mullen. I like to spell things to be able to remember, or at least to make sense of it in my brain. But they propose that there are 4 subtypes of obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. And before I even give you those, OCPD is a personality disorder in which the person wants to be in control, and the person needs control, a sense of control, a sense in my mind of relaxing and feeling like things are good when things are in order, when things are done to a certain standard. And one bad thing or one disruptive thing about OCPD is when the person tends to project that onto other people and not just have that need for themselves, but demand that of everyone else too. And maybe not everyone else has the desire to have it that way, agrees that it needs to be that way, has time to help with it, feels the responsibility to help with it. But it can be troubling in relationships if somebody's really demanding that something needs to be done a certain way. And just as an example, if someone came to your house to visit and asked to use your washer and dryer, and you said sure, but went through step by step to another adult who's probably used a washer and dryer many, many times in their lifetime and explained how much to put in there so this doesn't happen, and how much to do this so this doesn't happen. And you're very, very picky and kind of micromanaging another adult, it can be insulting to that other person. And this might seem like, well, that's a dumb instance. Well, this has happened in my family many times, and not just from one person to a family member, but to people. I don't know. I'm trying not to give away too many people's information, but anybody in my family would know who I'm talking about. And it's just being demanding with your standard. And yeah, it might be your thing, but it might not even be your thing. It could be you came to visit that person and you're in the driveway and you're about to drive away. And this person who may or may not have OCPD is telling you to make sure you take the brake off, make sure that you watch for this sign when you're driving down the road, because there might be a policeman here, there might be a policeman there, and they tell you however many miles down the road. And it happens because that person has that need for that control to avoid disaster or whatever they don't want to go wrong. It is something in their brain that's causing that need to make sure a disaster doesn't happen. And I used to say to this person, you worry all the time. You're always worried about all these things. And he said, no, I'm not, because I do all these things and I tell everyone else to do it. I don't have to worry because then nothing, bad happens, or you avoid all that. Anyway, it's definitely disruptive to relationships, or it can be hard for people to be in a relationship with someone like that. So you may not have it to that degree to where and you may not have it at all, but if you know somebody in your life who is like that, it might help you understand that this might be how their brain is functioning, how they can be at ease is by finding this level of control in their lives to have something be a certain way. But you might have it to a way where you're looking at my podcast, and I think about this because I am this way, and that's why it's so hard to have my podcast be on video, because I visually need things to be perfect, and it might not look like it. Like I don't dress fancy or have my hair done or whatever. And it's not like I have I don't worry about trends and things, and maybe some people do and think that's a problem that I don't. But I do notice a lot of things. So I notice what books behind me aren't going all the way up. When I'm teaching yoga and some books are in there, I think, oh, some of the books are tilted a little bit. I should stuff that shelf a little bit more. And maybe the person doing yoga isn't even thinking of that, but maybe they are. I mean, I don't really care if they do, but it's something that disrupts me, and I don't want to disrupt anyone else, or I want it to not be off. I want it to like, oh no, is that showing? Oh, there's a curtain. I put a curtain here to make, if you ever watch a podcast, I'll give you all these little tips. I love to give behind the scenes tips, so whether you want them or not. But if you're ever watching a podcast or a YouTube channel and there's a curtain in the back, or as my husband spotted, a blanket from Harbor Freight, he goes, that's a blanket from Harbor Freight. And I said, oh, that's one of the tips for podcast episodes is to use moving blankets because they're more textured. I actually have, which I don't want to pull it out of the way, but I've got a couple coats in here because textured blankets, I took some coats out of my closet that are like those teddy bear coats, because they absorb sound and then it won't be echoey in here. But if that were showing in the background, like when I used to record my podcast upstairs and I'd see a pillow and I'd think, oh, that pillow's kind of right behind my head and now it looks like I have a hat on. Like nobody else cares about that. And I probably wouldn't even notice that if somebody else were doing it. But anyway, so that's a curtain behind me. But I notice those things. I'm a visually aware, obsessive compulsive person where I want things to have some sense of order to it. And when I watch a movie at night with my kids or something, we're all set up. I need things to be a certain way to be comfortable. And with OCD, you do the things that you do because you have anxiety. For me, the anxiety or the discomfort comes from seeing things that aren't a certain way. Does that make sense? So it's not like I have to wash my hands a certain way, although I have become more obsessive about cleanliness. I don't know. If, like I said, if you came into my house or you saw my car, you wouldn't think I was. But I'm more aware of when I take a fork out of the dishwasher, if somebody else is taking a fork out of the dishwasher, they're using their hand. Is that hand clean or not? It's going into the tray in the drawer. And is that hand touching? Like if the fork's sticking up, I load the dishwasher so the forks are sticking down because I can in my dishwasher. But my daughter's dishwasher, it has little slots. Sorry if I hit the microphone. It has little slots, so you have to put the narrow part down, which means you're grabbing the silverware, unless you've sanitized your hands, you're grabbing what people are going to put in their mouths, not to scare anybody. But I think of things like that. And as I get older, it gets worse. And then I think, well, is the little silverware separator actually clean? Because if someone reached in to get a spoon, is their hand clean? Is that touching my future spoon that I'm not going to get? And I know that's crazy. And I really don't worry about it to the point of not using a spoon. But I think about it. And I am, I guess, balanced enough that I think, okay, clearly we live with each other's, we live through these experiences and we're fine. But I do think about those things more. It gets a little bit worse as I've gotten older. My aunt told me, actually it's my husband's aunt, but I consider her my aunt too, Aunt Lois. She said the older she gets, the less she cares about that. Because I think she has seen, I've lived and learned this long, I've lived this long without getting sick from doing that. I'm probably just fine. But the only thing that I don't trust is a straw, because I do recycle straws. I like the Jamba Juice straws the best of any straw to use for a smoothie, more than the silicone ones or the metal ones or the ones that everyone says are reusable. Well, so are the plastic straws from Jamba Juice or In-N-Out. Those are my two favorite straws. In-N-Out's just isn't long enough, but they're both wide and they breathe more. I know this is obsessive talking, but they breathe more when you're sipping a smoothie or something. They move with your air so they can contract. So I like those better. So I reuse them. I wash them over and over. But when I put them in the drawer, I think it might be touching another straw and somebody else has reached in there. So I always rinse them off before I drink my smoothie. But if you notice you do things like this, or you're sitting in bed and you see something on your dresser and it's not quite straight and you have to get up and change it or something, you might have OCPD. You might have OCD. I don't think I do, because I don't think mine is driven by anxiety. But reading about OCPD, it is hereditary, or it can be caused by trauma. And because it is in my family, not that anyone in my family has been diagnosed, but the telltale symptoms are there so loud and clear, I wondered as I got older, because I rejected it so much as a child, thinking, why do you have to be this way? even though I love this person, I'm trying not to, I think I already talked about him in my other episode about OCPD, but I'm trying to be kind. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? When we have a disorder, it's not like we're being mean by saying somebody does this, and anyone in his life knows that he does this. But I thought that this was something that he did, and I noticed, and because of that, I wouldn't do that too. However, when I'm learning that it is a preoccupation for perfectionism, organization, control, and that it can interfere with relationships. It can interfere with completing tasks if you have a level of perfectionism that can't be obtained. It can also interfere with your satisfaction in life if it can't be maintained. That's what I'm finding is I do have a deep need for things to be really clean, but I can't obtain that. I either don't have the time, the patience, or the desire to clean that much. But I also have a house that was built 20-something years ago. I live in Florida where the storms are harsh, and I've learned that that means windows and window, edges and stuff, they wear with the weather. So I went and visited my daughter. She's in a brand new house. Every single windowsill is completely clean. You could eat off of the windowsills. Not in this house. No. No way. No way. And so it bothers me to notice it. And I do try to clean it, but some of them just really aren't cleanable. And yeah, wouldn't it be nice, as I used to say, and Brian Wilson, Beach Boys, just passed away. But when one of our sayings that I thought was great, I just talked to my kids, they didn't have as good of memories with it, but wouldn't it be nice? Because that's what I used to say to them when we'd be at the store. Did I mention this in the last episode? That if we'd be in the store, and it was hard that they would always say, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? And of course, I'd love to say yes, but you don't have enough money to buy everything your kids ask for. So it was always that battle of saying, no, not today, no, or, yeah, we can get that. And it wore on me. So when I had what I thought was a bright idea to say, you can't ask for things, but you can say, wouldn't it be nice? And then they'd say, wouldn't it be nice if I could have those chips? And sometimes I'd say, yeah, that'd be nice. Let's get it. And then other times I'd say, yeah, that'd be nice, but no, not today, whatever. And we just pass on. When I mentioned that on Father's Day, because we talked a lot about the Beach Boys, my dad, my husband loves the Beach Boys, and he's the one that introduced my kids to him. And we played Beach Boys on all of our family trips. And I said, do you guys remember when we used to go to the store? It started in this mall on this one trip that I said, wouldn't it be nice? And they're like, oh yeah. And they were more resentful that I did that, which made me sad. Maybe someday I'll have a conversation with them. I'm sure they didn't mean to hurt my feelings, but I want them to have good memories of that. I thought that was a great thing because it made it so we had a more positive interaction. But anyway, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't do these things? Where did I even go with this? I'm sure I'll see it when I'm editing, but I don't know now where I was. But yeah, wouldn't it be nice if we could, I don't know where I was. That's one of the, traits of ADHD. But if we didn't do things that made it harder for us, wouldn't it be nice if I didn't care about how clean the windows were? Because they are what they are, and I can live with it, and I try not to notice. But it does mess with me a bit. And that's why decluttering can be so great, because if you have these obsessive needs for order and everything, and you're trying to find something and you can't find it because there's so much else in the way, if you have a more orderly house, you won't lose things for long, or hopefully not as long. Because if you have ADHD, part of the attention deficit part plays into losing things. I don't know if I've done a whole episode about losing things, but I think it deserves one for sure. I should write a note of that. But if we can't pay attention to everything at the same time, and we really, really can't, part of that is the inability to have that working memory, take that information and put it where we can remember it later. And another part of it is having so many ideas that come up. It can push out other ideas. You can't possibly pay attention to them. Or if you're thinking, I really can't forget this right now, and you're grabbing all these things, and you forget to grab one thing, or you're putting something else away, and you have an intention to put it away in a certain place, but you're thinking about 5 other things. And when you do put it away, or you do set it down, you're not going to remember later. And then you lose it. And then you start looking for it. And if things are messy in your house, or if it's not like everything has its place and everything is in its place, that works better if you have more order, less clutter. So that's why decluttering is super helpful. Like you didn't know that, but that's the thing. I think I'm preaching to the choir, but I think it's helpful to know that we're not in this boat alone, because it is hard when you're losing things a lot, when you can't make sense of things, and it can disrupt life. Like today I was teaching a yoga class in this very room right there. And I've been teaching this couple private yoga lessons for like 4 or 5 years, I guess, maybe 4 years. And I've been teaching Zoom classes for a really long time. So I wouldn't say I've perfected it, but I'm constantly trying to perfect it because I have that need. Like, how can this be better? How can this be better? And if you have that need for things to be just as good as they can be, and you also have that idea brain of thinking of new ideas, then when you have another idea, you can put that in and, try that out and see if it works. So one of those things with teaching yoga is, what is the best option for audio? How can the person taking their yoga class from me hear me the best? And when I first started during COVID times, I tried just the microphone. I used a blue Snowball, is that what it's called? Microphone, and had it where it could be close to the mat. And it was the kind, there's a dynamic and I can't remember the two kinds of microphones. I should know because I've learned about this a million times, but it's not the kind of information that my brain retains. Making no apologies for that. I think it was the dynamic kind, and this is the other kind. I can't remember. Anyway, one of them gets your voice that's right in front. One of it gets more expansive area. But anyway, so I would teach, but my perfectionistic brain didn't like it if I could see my microphone there on the floor with the camera. So I started doing things like I would take a blanket that was kind of the same color as the carpet and cover the back of the microphone so it blended in better. I mean, it was dumb, and I'm sure nobody else cared about it, but I was always doing things like that. And then I learned that there's a microphone you could wear. And that, because sometimes if we went into child's pose or something like that, my voice would be more muffled because it was more toward the floor. So I learned that there's a Bluetooth microphone that you can wear, the Rode Wireless Go. I bought one, and people either clip it onto their shirt, or if you're female, you have the ability to put it inside your bra, and it kind of has a little pocket, at least for my body, it has a little pocket in there. Microphone comes straight up. The microphone's not touching anything. That works most of the time, but there are some yoga poses when you're on your stomach. So then people can't always hear you when you're on your stomach. And so sometimes I'll take it out, put it in front of me. So that's worked for a while, but then I learned that there's even the little thing that you can have like come up closer that goes from that. Anyway, I tried that. People said that didn't work as much because a long story with that. But recently, my new AirPods have had better sound. And so I've been using that in my ear until today. And the reason it didn't work today, and nothing else I tried except for my MacBook, but then I had to have the MacBook, my computer really close to me during the class. And anyway, it was kind of crazy because they projected onto their TV. And so at one point I was so close that I'm sure I was gigantic on their TV. And please don't watch this podcast on your TV. I don't want to be gigantic on your TV with this close up. But anyway, and maybe you're listening in your car, that's much better, much better. Anyway, so yeah. So I kept thinking, because when you have ADHD, if you have this gift, it is a wonderful gift to have, is that you are resourceful. It's like you're doing a science project every day. Okay, what are all the pieces? What could be going wrong? Okay, maybe it's the little plug-in connector, and I have an extra one, so I took everything out, plugged it in that way. Okay, maybe it's just the AirPods. I took out the AirPods. I used the Bluetooth piece that I wear one. That wasn't better. I'm like, what? Like I'm trying the things. If it's not the connectors, if it's not the thing I'm using, could I just use the MacBook? They said that was best, but the negative is you get farther away from it. And it's been so long since I used that Snowball microphone, I don't even know where it is. But anyway, it was doable. And one of the things I learned long ago is that when you're making a video, like an exercise video or yoga video, here's a tip if any of you ever want to do that, the thing is least forgivable or most hard to deal with is when the audio is bad. If the video is bad, if they can see you, I mean, actually still in yoga, they do want to see what I'm doing because it's kind of hard sometimes to tell, which leg is which. I think they should make leggings where like one leg is a different color so so you can see what's happening. But I'm very aware of that too when I'm teaching. I'm like, okay, I have to have a mat that's a different color than my leggings, and I need to have a background that's a different color than my shirts and my arms. Sometimes they're really white and they blend in with the background. I'm always aware of stuff like that probably people don't care about. But anyway, so today what happened is afterwards I realized that in my leggings I don't know if you have these, but sometimes you have a tiny pocket inside the waistband. Inside there was another AirPod, if you're watching, just this kind, the old school. And I paint fingernail polish. If you lose AirPods, here's a little free tip to go. If I have multiple sets, which I do, and I've bought a lot of them used, oh yeah, that's when my heart rate goes up thinking of all the times I've lost my AirPods, because this is my lifesaver to get anything done, is to put an AirPod in my ear, listen to a podcast, listen to a book, listen to a show. Then I can get stuff done. And so since I have a couple different sets of these, because I tend to lose one or the other and try to keep them together because some are older than others and they won't work in a different case, is I paint a dot on a fingernail polish on the case and then a tiny dot on the top of each AirPod. And I have some off-brand ones from Amazon and the sound isn't as good, like for music and stuff. But that's if I really have lost all my sets of AirPods. But anyway, I was using this because I thought I was planning ahead. I was using this to listen to a podcast to get some things done before I taught my yoga class. And then I had, of course, multitasking. And I know I made an episode about why multitasking isn't good. But sometimes, like laundry, you're not going to spend your whole day waiting for the washer to finish in the dryer. You're going to do something in between. So I went to switch the laundry, took my AirPod out of my ear and put it in this little pocket in my leggings. And I thought I was being really wise because last week I used my new AirPod. The AirPod Pro 2s now can be used as hearing aids. And I have hearing loss in my right ear. So I thought I'm going to use that. And when I'm out in public, see if I can hear people better. Because it's been so long since I've used my hearing aid that it doesn't work very well when I try it. It's mostly because I couldn't figure out how to clean it and it just wasn't working as well. Anyway, long story with that. And part of that's probably ADHD. I know we're not supposed to blame everything on it, but I think that really was just kind of a lack of understanding of how to keep that clean without wrecking it. But anyway, so because I used my AirPod Pro 2s last week, right before my private yoga class, I had used up the battery. And when it was time to start class, partway through, it went, and it went like battery's dying. And I thought, ooh. So I switched it out and put the right ear one in the left ear. Save, it worked. Because I usually just use one ear, and that's the only ear that works for me. Like I can't just use it in my right ear because that ear doesn't work. Anyway, so back to that. Today I was thinking, be smart. Don't use your newer AirPods to get work done. Use your old one. But when I put it away, I have a new spot where I put them away so I don't lose them as much as often. But I wasn't in there, so I put it in this pocket and I forgot because other things come up in our minds. We don't remember everything, and this isn't so noticeable that I'm going to remember. So I came in to teach the class, and all of my Bluetooth options that I tried did not work because this AirPod was still connected to this computer. And so, can you hear the thunder? I don't know if you can hear the thunder. In Florida, we get thunder and lightning storms. So fun. I super love it. It's just exciting as long as the power doesn't go out while I'm recording. But anyway, so that's my wisdom. My planning ahead was good to use a different AirPod. My incomplete thought of putting it in here and not putting it all the way away interfered with that class. And thankfully they're patient, and thankfully I was able to use a closer up computer, but it was disruptive. And I think they still had a nice experience, but I was a little frazzled. I came out of teaching yoga. Usually I walk out like, oh, that was so nice and wonderful. And today it was sort of like, why did that happen? I've done this a million times. Why did that happen? You try to make things good. But at least I found out once I saw that was in there. Because I went on to the settings on my computer and looked, and it said that an AirPod actually it said with a pink dot was still connected. And I thought, what? And then I found it and I thought, oh, it actually was. So yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if things were perfect all the time? They aren't always. But if you can keep things more orderly, I think that's the hope. And maybe when we have ADHD and things are out of control a lot of times, maybe it's a natural response. It's like a seesaw. We're going deep this way until I'm spiraling out of control. My brain's maxing out. I can't do it. We need to have some order and control to kind of even things out. It's like, where can I get control? How can I create an environment? My friend was telling me today, and she and I are a lot alike. And she said, do you ever have this? We were talking about moving in, where it takes a while once you move in to really decide, is my kitchen set up the way I want it? Are my spoons, in the drawer that I want, and my spices and my this and my that? And I thought, yes. And I think I do it the whole time that I live in a place. I'm constantly searching for the better way to have it organized. When I worked in an office, I did the same thing. After 3, 4, 6 months one way, should I move the file drawers over here? Should I move my computer into this spot? Should I do this? Could the flow go better? Because at some point, there's some friction to having things go smoothly. And I think it's great that we can be resourceful, but it can also be hard. If you have a level of perfectionism, that's hard to maintain. So let me go back to these 4. Where are they? Dr. Mullen and Dr. Mulder. So do you ever do this with names? If you have a name and you try to assign it to some experience or something, like make a picture in your head, then maybe you'll remember it. And on the X-Files, wasn't the guy's name, David Duchovny, wasn't his name Mulder? Am I remembering that right? And then Mullen, how would I remember Mullen? I'm just mulling over this. That's more, is that even a word? It's like when you're just kind of trying to figure it out. Is that Mullen or Millen? Anyway. Okay, 4 subtypes of OCPD. Should I give it a little more of a summary before that? Okay, here are some signs and symptoms of OCPD before we go on. Because I looked for what is the deciding factor of whether you're diagnosed with this? And maybe I'll ask my next psychiatry visit, because I don't have to pay a lot. I don't have to pay as much as a copay for my specialist anymore. The first year with my first insurance, I tried my best not to be talkative, because I just thought, I can't have this cost too much. It was very, very, very hard. So, obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. Oh, yeah. So one of the reasons that it's not diagnosed very much is a lot of people don't realize they do it or don't see anything wrong with it. I think I have an awareness because it was in my family. And then when I saw it myself, I thought, oh, this is just because I grew up with it. I also I don't see it in my brothers, but their wives have told me that they've seen it too. So that's really interesting, huh? But it says it affects 3 to 8% of adults. That's not very high compared to ADHD. That's another blog article I need to have. I did a whole episode about what percentage of people have ADHD, of all these disorders, and ADHD was really high. I think it was higher than OCPD for sure, but of course I don't remember the numbers. I don't remember them. Okay, so some of the things is having perfectionism that interferes with completing tasks. That's kind of a given with ADHD, don't you think? Do you have that where you don't get it done? I don't know. Maybe I think it's such a given because I so identify with it, that having perfectionism to a level that makes it so you don't either do something or complete it because it's not done the way you like it to do. I respect people. I admire people who can get things done so much faster because they're not thinking about it so much, or their standard isn't quite the same. When I organize a space, I also clean it. I also have the rag and the spray and the vacuum. And I love it. It's soothing to me. I think that's fun work, but yeah. Being preoccupied with and insisting on details, rules, lists, order, and organization. Maybe you do this, maybe you don't. I don't think I project mine onto other people as much. I think I wish I could. I wish I did, because I would enjoy that space better. I would enjoy an environment where everyone did things to my level of perfectionism. But my need to have everyone be happy, the people pleaser part of me, doesn't do that. So yeah, I'm too aware of other people's feelings to do that. Have excessive devotion to work and productivity. Do you work and work and work and work and work and have a hard time stopping? There are two sides to it. There's the I can't get myself to get started. And then sometimes if you have the hyper focus, that could be I dive into it and I can't get myself to stop. It can result in an imbalance in your life. Like maybe you aren't doing some of the things that you really love to do, some of the hobbies you have, some of the workouts, whatever, or you're spending less time with loved ones, friends, and things because you're just diving deep into these things. Have excessive doubt and indecisiveness. This is another crossover with ADHD because it can be really hard to make decisions, but that one need to please other people or make them happy. Maybe it's not pleasing them, but just doing things with them in mind. And having doubt, is it okay? Is this the best way? Is this going to work? Is it not? Yeah. I'm just rethinking my whole thing about the wouldn't it be nice. When I was talking about trying to do things to make other people happy, I need to be okay with if it not being a good memory for my kids, that's okay. You know what I mean? Like I can't change their memory of it. And have you heard of the book Let Them? Is that what it is? Just let them. I don't know, something like that. The let them theory. I don't know. The ADHD questioning part of me, I have to stop and see if I agree with everything before I can go on in my mind. I listened to that book with my daughter on our trip up to Virginia, and we would stop and talk. But I wanted to stop probably 5 times as many times as we did because I have that need to converse, but also because I learn the most from the things that I'm not good at. Like I learn the most about what's stopping me, like as far as business is going, or even with my podcast or even my website or whatever. That was really helpful. Or I don't know, just kind of like, what does the world think of this? What do the public think of this? What do my friends think of this? But all the other parts, I'm kind of like, really? Anyway. But yeah, back to my kids. I need to just let them have that as their response and forget about it. But I really want everyone to be happy and everyone to be happy with that. Anyway, okay, back to this. Okay, here's another thing with OCPD. Using caution, like you're avoiding things because you're afraid you'll fail at it. I would also say, and I know I'm sitting on the floor, so sometimes I get uncomfortable. I prefer to sit on the floor, but I'm moving around if you're watching. Avoiding things because you're either afraid you won't do well at it or you're afraid of the outcome. Like you have a fear of, like, I can't jump off of that cliff and into the water because, and maybe a lot of people won't, but there are a lot of things that I haven't done, like zip lining or things like that, because I don't want bodily harm or injury. But I've done other things like river rafting down deep. I don't know, I guess it depends on what time of my life. But I think I do have fears of, kind of those high adventures that a lot of people will do. One of my good friends has a husband that's encouraged her to do all those high adventure things. And she has, and I think I would not have been a good spouse in that relationship because I'd always just think, can I just hang back and go order food or something while everybody else does it? Anyway, so yeah, okay. But also just even not trying something because you don't want to fail at it. So easy to do. So easy. Or just stop, not keep going because you doubt yourself. Also, not being willing to compromise. Do you have a standard? And this is a big one with OCPD. Do you have a standard that you won't let go of because you just think that's the only way it can be done? Oh, this is a hard one. So I've been talking about decluttering, being unwilling to throw out worthless objects, even though they have no sentimental value. Even being, I even skipped part of this, being unwilling to throw out broken or worthless objects, even if they have no sentimental value. Yeah. So as I've been going through and doing my decluttering, I had a plate. It wasn't even mine. I bought it from my daughter-in-law because she likes yellow. I bought it for her kitchen, and it's more of a decorative plate, and it broke. And I don't know how it ended up at our house or if I took it home. But I brought it home, glued it, and was going to give it back, but then ended up and showed it to her. And I thought they probably don't want it in their house because it's broken and you can't really use it. But anyway, I used it as a backdrop and a little display in our kitchen because I just thought this is important to keep because it was hers, but it's broken. And she doesn't care about it. And anyway, I finally got rid of it. I finally threw it away. But I saved so many things like boxes and bags, because I like them. Like they make me feel good when I see them. Like any box that an Apple product comes in, it's white, it's it's sturdy. I use them to organize some things on some shelves, but some of them I just hang on to even if they don't have a purpose. Do you do things like that? Oh my goodness, what is wrong with me? Okay, have difficulty working with others or delegating tasks unless they agree to do it exactly like you want. Yeah. Have you ever thought I'd rather do it myself than give up the way it's going to be done? And you have a hard time when people do things differently. I don't know. I feel like some of these things, since I can identify with so many of them, I think isn't everyone this way, but I really don't think they are. If this is a personality disorder that affects 6 to 8% people. Okay, frequently becomes over-fixated on a single idea or belief. Or a single task. Like, I need to get this done. 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 And that's just the only thing you want to do. Black and white thinking. And this can happen for a lot of people. And it's also a big part of, what's it called? I'm thinking OCD. BPD, yeah. BPD has a lot of black and white thinking. But from what I've read about it, and that's borderline personality disorder, what I read about it, it has a lot to do with people. I don't know that happens as much with OCPD, that it's as much people, but it might be more like situational. Like if you're gonna start exercising, you're not gonna just move from, I need to exercise, I haven't exercised in years. And you're not going to just start going on a walk or lifting weights, going to the gym for 30 minutes. You're like, I've got to do this at least an hour a day. And I've got to make sure I do this, like make it, like turn it on full force from the beginning. And if you can't do that, or you can't make it, then not at all. Or the whole dieting thing. If you've lived with the diet mindset, like I have in my life, I feel like the younger generations have gotten a better balanced approach to that. But the whole, I'm going on what do we even call them? The crash diet. Oh yeah, the crash diet. I'm going on a crash diet. I'm only going to have liquids for 2 weeks. I'm going to make this little smoothie, or what we didn't even call them smoothie, this shake. I'm only going to eat pineapple. I didn't get in on the pineapple diet, but I did get on a lot of them. And you follow that and you do lose some weight and you're starving, and you look at other people who are healthy and they get to eat peanut butter and you're not, or whatever, And then you, quote unquote, blow it. That's that black and white thinking, right? You blow it. And so you're like, well, if that's going to happen, then tonight I'm going to go do this. My friend and I, my roommate and I, we would go to Weight Watchers. And the night before, we would eat as much as we could before our weigh-in, because we'd think, like, that's the last we can eat this. It was such black and white thinking. Huh. Whew. Yeah. Crazy. But, it's part of life for some of us. Having difficulty coping with criticism. How is that related to OCPD? I don't know. Maybe it's obsessive thoughts. I mean, there's also the whole rejection sensitive dysphoria. It is hard. It is hard. If you're struggling with that at all, even just today, if someone's criticized you and it's bugging you, and if you just kind of look at it and say, one, does this person matter to you? If they don't, like you hardly know them, they don't really know you, let that go. If they do know you and love you, the weight with which you're taking it is probably not the weight which they even think about it or you. And I know it's easy to take it as if it is the 100% way that they look at you. It isn't. It isn't. So yeah, it's hard to be balanced with these things, especially if you have these tendencies. But just think of all the things that person loves about you, or that they've said about you. Try to balance that out, because it's so easy to take a negative comment or look or sigh, or however that is. It can be hard. So yeah. And over focusing on the flaws in other people. Trying to, let that take you into a spiral. Anyway. So yeah. So I'm not going to go into this more, except for to go back to, do you remember the names? Mulder, is that his name? From X-Files, and Mullen. Let me look it up really fast. X-Files, what were their names? Actors. I mean, I know David Duchovny. Oh, he was Mulder. Scully and Mulder. Yeah. Okay. Yay, I remember something. I didn't even watch it that much. It was my friend's favorite, and we didn't have cable at the time, because, cable was expensive, and it's not like we always had money. We had 6 kids. But okay, let's go back to these people. Okay, there's 4 subtypes of OCPD. And this is just new to me, so I just thought it'd be fun to pass along. One is the over-controlled person. So this might be the person who either lives this way in their life, or I guess it is just in their own. Okay, over-controlled. So it's a self-over-controlled. I thought it was maybe going to be how they project it on other people, but I think that's different. Okay, so over-controlled is extremely rigid, emotionally constricted. Doesn't mean they have to be all these things, but it could be in how they conduct themselves. They have high levels of self-restraint or moral rigidity. Like, I absolutely can't do that. I can't even think of possibly doing that. They tend to suppress their emotions and may come across as cold or overly serious. So that's like a self-controlled thing. The second one is perfectionistic. That is a classic way that OCPD can present itself, obsessed with order, details, and control. Whether you're able to maintain that or not doesn't factor in. Like, if you think, well, my life doesn't show that I'm perfectionist. But if you're obsessed with order, details, and control, and one of your favorite things is to take all these books, and these 3 bookshelves, so you can see, if you can see in this room, are only, I don't know, I probably have 5 times as many books as that. And one of my favorite things to do is organize them. I was just doing it last week, is to go through, get rid of a few. I never can get rid of very many. Sometimes I order them by color, organize them, order them. What am I saying? And I got distracted because I could see it close up, and I'm like, which titles can you see? Which titles can you see? But sometimes, right now I have like my yoga shelf. I've tried organizing them all just by color, but the problem is you can't find the books you need when you do that. And if I have the yoga books on one shelf or something, then I can find them. Same with the same authors. I've got lots of Rick Riordan's that my son loved to read. And if I put them all, like the black ones with the black books with the shiny sides and stuff, then I can't find the whole set. I forget what I have. Anyway, obsessed with order, details, and control. So if you find it so soothing and wonderful to just organize things, then that could be you. Excessive devotion to work and productivity at the expense of leisure or relationships. Has anyone ever told you, get a life? Do something else? Not very often, but I've told myself that sometimes when I get deep into this. Okay, third type. Okay, first two types, in case you have a problem like me, keeping track. Over-controlled, that's more self-controlled, super restrained. Perfectionistic, it shows in the things that you do. Authoritarian, so this is where it goes to other people. Controlling and critical of others, rigid adherence to rules and standards. But not just for yourself, because that is also with the other one, but also maybe for your children or for other people. Maybe demanding or moralistic with difficulty tolerating other people's opinions. And I know sometimes people think moralistic might be just, like religious and stuff. It doesn't have to just be religious. And there can be religious people who aren't this way. They can be respective of their religion and their ways, but not be demanding. I think, at least in my opinion, not that I know Dr. Mulder or Mullen, but that this would make somebody a more judgmental person in my judgmental eyes. I try not to be judgmental, but I'm thinking that would, if you have those demands of other people, do you see people like that who are like, why are those children doing those? What's wrong with their parents? Or why isn't anybody, anyway, yeah. Those are people who are projecting their standards onto other people, their opinions. And then the fourth one, obsessive. That's why they call it OCPD. So I guess the obsessiveness, the PD, it'd be nice if the P, the personality disorder, was perfectionist, but it's not. Okay. Obsessive is part of the name, though. Preoccupied with mental control, doubts, and decision-making. So that's where the perfectionism can get in the way of decisions, and self-doubts can come up, or even just controlling your emotions, getting out of a funk, that kind of thing. More internal stress and indecisiveness than outward rigidity. So it's all coming in and it's turmoil here instead of showing up this way. And then overthinking, second guessing, frequent mental rumination. Do you ever notice your mental ruminations? I don't know. It seems to come with ADHD. Speaking of which, a lot of times when I make these podcasts afterwards, I think, I was talking about this, or I was going to talk about that. And you always forget something. But now that I say that, there was something I was talking about earlier and I didn't complete it, but now I don't remember what it was. Oh my gosh. Life. Okay, let me read these again and see if they come up. Okay, more internal distress and indecisiveness and outward rigidity, and then overthinking, second guessing. Oh, I know what it was. And frequent mental rumination. So earlier, I was talking about how when you have a hard time losing things, and even, you can't keep track of it, because you're thinking of so many things at once, or you can't focus on as many things at once. So, and even just dropping things, losing things, kind of that klutziness, and then the scatteredness. So the scatteredness might show up in, I lost something, I dropped something, I tripped. It comes from both sides of ADHD. If it's the inattentive, you can't pay attention to as many things. And then also the impulsive part, the hyperactive impulsive part. Sometimes the need to move your body, or the impulse, that new idea. It's not just, I have a busy brain, but and I can't focus, that kind of thing. But it can also just be an idea that takes front stage and makes it so you're losing things. But it can also happen with the overthinking things. With the overthinking, it can just be that you're not sure, because you think of so many ideas, whether it's because of impulse ideas or just a busy brain that can't stay in one place. I don't know. Oh, lots of things, huh? I don't know. I think it's kind of exciting to find out whether you've found out that you've had ADHD as an adult, or you're just learning more about it as an adult. Because my guess is, even if you were diagnosed as a child, you didn't know that much about it. And I don't think we were told as much about it. But most women seem to be finding out as adults. And I think it's exciting because we do have more awareness and we're more exposed to information like this to where we might go, wait, is that me? Is that me? Because I really didn't know it was me for a long time. Even when I had friends tell me they had ADHD, even then when I had my son tell me he thought he did. Never did I ever think I did too. Anyway, I guess that's it. I haven't made a longer episode in a long time, and I'm kind of excited that I did again. I've had some time to do it. So thank you. Thank you for being patient with me. And like I said, I might just do them once a week, but I might do two a week because I have that impulsiveness and I might want to do two. And I think when I take off the pressure to try to fit everything in, because I am decluttering like a crazy person and loving it. I had the episode last week of the 5 hard things about decluttering when you have ADHD. And I want to make another one about the great things about decluttering because it is really fun and fascinating if you can get yourself to do it. So thanks so much for being here. I will be back. Go to my website, see what I've done, renee-allen.com. Sign up for my newsletter if you can figure out how to do that. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's a whole new format. I've been testing out my own. I think I've got it figured out. I made a quiz, but the quiz that I had before doesn't work on this new website, so I'm making a new one and we'll see if it works, but you can see if you like it. Talk to you later. Bye.